The candles are lit, but nobody asked me what I wished for. 28 of them circle the cake at the center of the table. My 6 sisters fill every chair around me, their faces angled toward phone screens, their conversations layering over each other the way traffic layers when no one is watching the road. This is my birthday dinner. I know that. I am genuinely uncertain they do. He said the merger fell through, but I think that just means the price went up. If you send that before Monday, she will screenshot it. Guaranteed. The florist quoted us double and I literally just laughed. 3 conversations, none of which include me. I have been at this table 40 minutes. The only person who looked directly at me tonight was the server who asked what I wanted to drink. Diana sits 2 seats to my left, cutting her salmon into smaller and smaller portions. She does this at every dinner, reduces her food until restraint looks like discipline. I have watched her do it for years without saying a word. Tonight, she sets her fork down. I have to say something before tonight ends, Diana says. The company is going to miss payroll next Friday. I have run the numbers 3 separate ways and they all return the same result, a $380,000 shortfall. The bank will not move on the credit line until the audit closes, which means someone at this table has to make a real decision before Thursday. 200 people do not get paid if that does not happen. She picks up her fork when she finishes, like she read a maintenance report and the building belongs to someone else. My sisters look up for approximately 3 seconds. The table noise rebuilds. Is that worse than last quarter? I thought that audit was handled. Someone will sort it out. I reach into my jacket. I pull out my checkbook. Nobody at the table watches me do it. The pen has a specific weight that my hand knows by now, 9 years of being the one who sorts it out. I write the number. I write the date. I write the name. I think briefly about 200 people who will see their direct deposits clear on Friday and never know this moment existed. Then I slide the check to the center of the table without making it a moment, without asking for anything back, without the specific humiliation of wanting acknowledgement. Vivian reaches it first. She picks it up with 2 fingers and angles it toward the chandelier. She reads the number. Her expression does not change the way a grateful person's expression changes. Her expression changes the way someone's changes when a suspicion is confirmed. Finally useful, she says. The chandelier hums once above the table, low and even, like punctuation. There it is, the familiar tightening behind my sternum, not pain exactly, more like the space inside my chest quietly becoming smaller without asking permission. I have a method for it. I have used it at every family dinner for 3 years. 4 counts in, hold for 8, release for 4. I built the method because the alternative was saying something I could not take back. Tonight, I reach the end of the release and the space does not return. I sit with that for 3 seconds. Then I stand. Nobody looks up when I stand. One of my sisters laughs at something on her screen. Diana refills her water glass. The conversation around the table closes over the place I was occupying, the way water closes over something you have dropped. Immediate. Complete. No evidence of entry. I reach across the table. Vivian still holds the check loosely between 2 fingers. Already talking to the sister beside her. I take it back from her hand. She looks at me then. Actually looks. The first genuine eye contact at this table all evening. I tear the check in half. The sound cuts through everything. I tear it again. 4 pieces. I set them on the table in front of my plate the way I would set down a pen when a letter is finished. Nathan. Vivian starts. Good night, I say. The sister beside Vivian goes still. Somewhere behind me, a glass hits the table harder than intended. I lift my jacket from the back of my chair. I walk out of the dining room. With each step, the sounds of the table fall further behind me. The voices, the silverware, the notification tones, the full working noise of a room that does not require me. I wait for my name as I cross the entry hall. No one says it. I open the front door and close it behind me. The driveway is cold and still. The garage light burns pale yellow above the empty space. I sit behind the wheel without starting the engine. The steering wheel is cool under both hands. Through the windshield, the house windows are lit, shapes still moving inside them, dinner still running at the same volume. My empty chair has resolved something in that room. I can feel the corrected geometry from out here in the dark. 28 years. Not just money, though it was always money when they needed money. Not just the checks, but the silence I chose because silence kept things from breaking. The absences when my presence became inconvenient. The birthdays I showed up to when everyone else forgot the point. I spent years believing the weight I carried would eventually register somewhere. That at some point someone in this family would look at what was on the scale and recognize it. Tonight, I understood the scale was never designed to read me. Don't start the car. My phone vibrates on the passenger seat. The message is from Dr. Owen Park. I have been his patient for 11 months. He writes the way doctors write when the result is not routine. Short sentences, no extra words, nothing reassuring. Nathan, your latest scan results are in. I need you to come in first thing tomorrow morning. It's urgent. I read it twice, then once more. The word urgent sits on my phone screen like a sentence that has already been decided. HP tone. To Nathan sat across from me in a memory that would not leave. But Dr. Owen Park was in front of me now, and the thin folder in his hand mattered more than anything else in the room. I sat in his office because my latest tests had come back. He stood beside his desk because he had something to say that could not wait. Dr. Owen closed the folder. The defect has progressed. Nathan, I watched a car move through the parking lot outside his window. How far? Far enough that we are no longer discussing a future possibility. His voice stayed calm. You need surgery within the next few weeks. The room seemed smaller. I looked at the report spread across his desk, and if I don't? He folded his arms. Then you're gambling with sudden cardiac arrest. It may happen next month. It may happen 6 months from now. It may happen when you're walking across a parking lot. He paused. The problem is that nobody can predict when. The clock on the wall ticked once. I rubbed my thumb against the edge of the chair. What does recovery look like? Dr. Owen nodded as if he had expected that. Question. 8 to 10 weeks if everything goes well. I stared at the floor. 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 10. Weeks of board meetings missed. 8 to 10 weeks of explaining things. 8 to 10 weeks of people asking questions. I'll think about it. Dr. Owen sighed. Nathan. I said I'll think about it. The silence stretched between us. Finally, he nodded. Just don't think about it for too long. I left before he could say anything else. My office was quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Marcus Reed was already there, sitting in one of the chairs across from my desk. He looked up immediately. You look terrible. I tossed my keys onto the desk. Good morning to you too. Marcus leaned forward. What happened? I loosened my tie. The surgery isn't optional anymore. His expression changed at once. How soon? A few weeks. Marcus stared at me, then he stood. Call. Them. I knew exactly who he meant. I walked around the desk without answering. Nathan, I opened the top drawer. Call your family. My hand stopped. On a small plastic bracelet buried beneath old documents. The white band was faded now. 8 years old. The first time my chest had locked up so hard I thought I was dying. Remembered checking into a private clinic under my middle name. Remembered signing forms with shaking hands. I remembered sitting alone because telling anyone seemed worse than the pain. Marcus watched me lift the bracelet. What is that? Nothing. I held it for another second. Then, I placed it back into the drawer and closed it. Marcus exhaled. Sharply. You can't keep doing this. Alone. Watch me. The office fell silent. His jaw tightened. That's not a plan. It's the only one I have. The tension stayed in the room long after the words ended. By evening, I found myself standing inside the family home. I was only there to collect a few personal things. That was what I told myself. The house smelled exactly the same. Fresh. Flowers, polished wood, a place that looked warm from a distance. Nathan? I froze. Maya. Cole stood at the top of the staircase. She smiled immediately. There you are. I looked up at her. We missed you. The words landed harder than they should have. Come back in, she called. Seriously. Everyone's been asking about you. For one dangerous second, I almost moved toward the stairs. I almost believed her. Then my attention shifted. Her phone rested face up on the entryway. Table unlocked. The screen was still. Glowing. My eyes dropped to the newest message. I wasn't trying to read it. I simply did. The text sat there in plain sight. He is being dramatic and will crawl back by. Sunday like he always does. Sent 11 minutes earlier. The contact name belonged to her boyfriend. I read the sentence twice. Not. Because I didn't understand it. Because I did. Above me, Maya smiled warmly. The message remained on the screen. My chest tightened. Not from my heart, from something older. Something far more familiar. Nathan? Maya asked. I looked up. Thanks. That was all I said. The smile on her face flickered. I picked up my jacket, then I walked toward the front door. The house suddenly felt colder behind. I opened my eyes to the steady beep of a monitor. Marcus Reed sat beside my hospital bed, and the fact that he was still. They told me the situation was worse than anyone wanted to admit. The room smelled like antiseptic and cold air. My chest felt heavy. A needle tugged at my arm when I shifted. Marcus noticed immediately. Welcome back. My throat felt dry. How long? The chair creaked as he leaned forward. I found you on the floor at 11:40. I stared at the ceiling. And? You've been out for 16 hours. The monitor continued its slow rhythm. I swallowed. You called the ambulance. Obviously. A tired smile crossed his face. You scared the hell out of me. I looked toward the window. Beyond the glass, the hospital hallway stretched past my room. Every one of my sisters stood there. Vivian, Diana, Lily, Serena, the others, Eleanor, all gathered in one place because my body had finally forced a conversation I had spent 8 years avoiding. I almost laughed. Nothing gathers a family faster than a crisis. The door opened. Dr. Owen Park stepped inside carrying a tablet. You're awake. Unfortunately. The corner of his mouth moved. He checked the monitor, reviewed a chart, and shined a light briefly into my eyes. How do you feel? Like I lost a fight. You did. I looked at him. With who? With your own stubbornness. The machine beside me gave another soft beep. Dr. Owen finished his notes. I need to speak with your family. I nodded once. He left the room. The door remained slightly open. Not enough for privacy, more than enough to hear. I should have looked away. Instead, I watched the narrow gap. Dr. Owen stopped in front of my family. His voice carried clearly through the opening. I'm going to be direct. The hallway fell silent. Nathan has been managing a serious congenital heart defect for 8 years. No one answered. There have been multiple warning episodes. My fingers tightened against the blanket. Each time surgery was recommended. A pause followed. Each time he declined. I watched Vivian's face change. Diana looked confused. Eleanor lowered her eyes. Dr. Owen continued. He was always too busy protecting other people to protect himself. The words landed harder than they should have, because they were true. Then Dr. Owen removed a document from his folder. There is something else. Paper rustled. This financial disclosure letter was pre-signed by Nathan for medical emergencies. Vivian accepted it. I could not read the pages from where I lay. I did not need to. I already knew what was inside. Every anonymous trust payment, every hidden transfer, every secret expense. The hallway became very quiet. Then Diana covered her mouth. Oh my God. No one else spoke. I imagined the lines they were reading. Mortgage clearances. 3 failing businesses saved without explanation. Years of support hidden behind legal structures and anonymous accounts. Lily's medical school tuition. Harper's engagement expenses. Every comfortable luxury they thought had appeared from nowhere. The silence grew heavier. I turned my face toward the ceiling. Some truths arrived too late to matter. The hallway remained quiet for several seconds. Then I heard another voice. Serena. Soft. Careful. Almost a whisper. If he doesn't sign the asset transfer before surgery, we lose the Eastfield property. The words sliced through everything else. I stopped breathing for a second. Vivian answered immediately. That is not what matters right now. Her voice sounded sharp, but it did not matter. The damage was already done. I had heard it. The monitor beside me kept beeping steadily. Funny. A machine cared more about my heartbeat than some people cared about me. The hallway conversation faded. Several minutes later, the door opened again. Vivian entered alone. She closed the door behind her. The room felt smaller immediately. She approached slowly. Her expression was gentle. Too gentle. The kind people wear when they are rehearsing difficult conversations. I already knew the script. Vivian stopped beside my bed. Nathan, I know. The words left my mouth before she could continue. The room froze. Vivian blinked. The careful smile disappeared. I watched her search for another sentence. Nothing came. No explanation, no excuse, no defense, just silence. The air conditioner hummed softly overhead. For the first time in years, Vivian looked completely unprepared. Eventually, she looked away. That hurt her more than anything I could have said. Hours passed. Visitors came and went. Doctors checked monitors. Nurses adjusted medications. My sisters stayed in the hallway. Nobody seemed willing to leave. Nobody seemed willing to enter either. The distance between us had finally become visible. By late afternoon, my phone would not stop vibrating. I ignored it. Then Marcus picked it up. His eyebrows rose. What happened now? I looked at him. What? You're trending. I almost laughed. That sounds terrible. It probably is. He handed me the screen. Notifications flooded every corner. Messages, tags, comments, mentions, thousands of them. I frowned. Why? Marcus scrolled. Someone found something, elsewhere in the city. Somebody was apparently digging through old records instead of minding their own business. The notifications continued arriving. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became more. Marcus opened a post. A name appeared. Rachel Moore. I recognized it vaguely. A journalist. The post contained screenshots, philanthropy records, corporate filings, donation histories. One highlighted entry connected my company to an anonymous donor account, the same account that funded a children's hospital wing 3 years earlier. Rachel had connected the dots, and she had posted everything. The internet did what it always did. It ran with the story. By evening, the post had over 200,000 views. People called me generous, selfless, quiet hero, community leader. I stared at the screen. Most of them knew less about me than the barista who made my coffee. Yet strangers somehow thought they understood me better than my own family. The irony almost made me smile. Outside my room, my sisters stood together reading the same flood of praise. I watched their expressions change. Confusion, disbelief, embarrassment, regret, one after another. The comments kept coming. People celebrated actions my family never even knew existed. Because nobody had ever asked. The corridor doors suddenly burst open. Everyone looked up. Lily rushed inside holding an open binder. Her face had gone pale. She moved quickly through the hallway. Pages flipped beneath her fingers. Again. 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 She stopped abruptly outside my room. The binder trembled in her hands. I watched through the glass. Lily stared down at a specific page, then toward me, then back at the page. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She looked like someone who had discovered a body. Vivian stepped closer. Lily? Lily did not answer. Her eyes remained fixed on the binder. I could see the realization spreading across her face. Slow, relentless, terrible. She finally spoke, barely above a whisper. No. The hallway became silent. Lily turned another page, then another. Her breathing quickened. I saw the name on the tab when she lifted the binder slightly. Nathan A. Cole. Memory connected itself instantly. 4 months ago, a cardiac review, a hospital case, a recommendation that never moved forward. Lily looked through the glass directly at me, then back to the file, then at me again. The color drained completely from her face. The binder slipped from her hands. Lily's binder hit the floor. Nobody in the hallway moved to pick it up. The steady beat beside my bed kept counting seconds I had almost lost. I was in the hospital room because surgery was now 4 days away, and everyone around me seemed to understand that better than I did. The doctors called me stable. The word sounded impressive until I realized it only meant I had not gotten worse. I sat upright against the pillows and watched sunlight move slowly across the floor. Family members came and went. Vivian tried twice to start conversations. Diana asked if I needed anything. Serena stood in the doorway for nearly a minute before leaving. I answered most questions with a few words. The effort required to explain myself suddenly seemed larger than the effort required to stay silent. By afternoon, the room became quiet again. Then Eleanor arrived. She stepped inside, looked at me for a moment, and nodded. "You should rest." "I've had plenty of that." A faint smile crossed her face. The monitor beside me continued its soft rhythm. She turned toward the door. "I need to speak with them." I already knew who she meant. An hour later, the waiting room 1 floor below filled with my sisters. I was not there. I only knew what happened because the story traveled quickly through hospital walls. Eleanor placed 6 envelopes on a low table. Each envelope carried a different name. Each one carried my handwriting. Years earlier, I had written those letters during nights when sleep would not come. They were never meant as speeches. They were records, small things, quiet things, moments nobody else had noticed. Eleanor told them the truth. "He wrote these years ago." The room reportedly stayed silent. "He gave them to me because he never believed the time would be right while he was standing in front of you." No accusations waited inside those envelopes. No demands, no anger, just memory. Harper opened hers first. Inside, she found a story about a dinner conversation from years ago when she had nervously talked about her future fiancé. The letter continued further. It explained that 6 months earlier, my lawyers had quietly paid off a hidden gambling debt connected to her fiancé. The engagement had nearly collapsed before it began. She had never known. He had told her a business contact solved everything. The truth had arrived years late. Maya opened hers next. Her letter described details nobody should have remembered. The color of a notebook she carried. The first campaign she celebrated. The way she smiled whenever she talked about building her brand. Then the letter explained something else. 2 years ago, a stolen content scandal had been preparing to explode publicly. 48 hours later, it disappeared. Maya had always assumed the problem resolved itself. It had not. My legal team had buried it before it reached daylight. The room reportedly became quieter. Serena unfolded her letter slowly. Mine reminded her of long nights studying for the licensing exam. The letter then explained why a financial hold disappeared days before her deadline. I had guaranteed the loan myself. My credit, my signature, my risk. Without it, she never would have sat for the exam. She passed by 4 points. 4 points. Sometimes entire lives rest on numbers smaller than people notice. Lily opened hers. She read only halfway, then she stopped. The envelope closed. The chair moved. The room looked up. Without saying a word, she stood and left. Nobody stopped her. The hospital ethics office sat farther down the hall. Lily walked there alone. She filed a formal report against herself. The cardiac case she had classified as low priority during her internship rotation belonged to me, Nathan A. Cole. My middle initial had hidden me from strangers. It had not hidden me forever. After filing the report, she walked back through the corridor. She passed the waiting room. She did not go inside. She did not slow down. Sometimes guilt moves faster than grief. Back upstairs, I sat alone in my room. The afternoon sun faded against the glass. A nurse checked my chart and left. The silence felt different now, as if something important had shifted elsewhere in the building. Then another truth surfaced. Eleanor revealed something even the letters had not contained. 3 weeks before my collapse, I had signed legal papers transferring every company share equally among my 6 sisters. Everything. No conditions, no negotiations, no future meeting waiting to happen. The company would become theirs. The room reportedly struggled to process that. Then, Eleanor told them about the second document, a letter addressed to Marcus Reed. The letter explained my plan. I intended to relocate permanently. I was not coming back. I was leaving quietly. No confrontation, no dramatic exit, no final speech. I was going to disappear. They would inherit everything. They would never know where most of it came from. The room remained silent for a long time. Eventually, Vivian asked the only question that mattered. Did he ever think we would notice? Eleanor answered immediately. He stopped thinking that a long time ago. Back in my room, I knew none of this. Nobody told me. Nobody asked permission either. That afternoon, Vivian released a public statement. She acknowledged my contributions to the family and the company. The statement carried all the right words: respect, gratitude, recognition. I never approved it. I never saw it. At almost the same moment, Rachel Moore published her full article. The story spread everywhere. Comments flooded social media. Thousands of strangers asked the same question. Different wording, same meaning. How did none of you know? The question followed every public account connected to my family. No public relations team could answer it. No carefully written statement could erase it. The internet had chosen its verdict. Evening settled over the hospital. The sky beyond my window darkened. My phone remained untouched on the bedside table. I had no interest in reading praise from people who knew only headlines. The door opened quietly. I expected another nurse, another doctor, another uncomfortable conversation. Instead, I saw Zoe. She entered my room and closed the door behind her. No dramatic entrance. No speech prepared in advance. Just Zoe. She crossed the room and sat in the chair beside my bed. Then she stayed there. Minutes passed. Neither of us spoke. The silence felt different from every other silence I had endured recently. It asked for nothing. It demanded nothing. It explained nothing. For once, nobody wanted a signature. Nobody wanted answers. Nobody wanted me to carry something for them. The monitor continued its slow rhythm. The room remained still. I turned my head and looked at Zoe sitting in the chair. For the first time in this entire story, I did not look like a man who was alone. The scar across my chest pulled slightly when I reached for a glass of water. I was back in my apartment after surgery, and every quiet sound in the room reminded me that I was still alive. Recovery was slower than I liked. Breathing hurt less each day. Walking felt easier. Sleeping no longer felt like falling through darkness. For the first time in years, my future stretched farther than a few months ahead. 4 days passed. They came to me one at a time. Not as a group. Not as a family meeting. Just people carrying things they should have said long ago. Vivian arrived first. She stood in my kitchen looking exactly like herself. Perfect posture, controlled expression, measured movements, the oldest sister, the one who always looked certain even when she wasn't. She placed something on the kitchen table. I recognized it immediately. The check. The one she had torn apart. Every piece had been carefully taped back together, every fold repaired, every rip visible. Some things can be fixed without ever becoming whole again. Vivian stared at the table. I came to return it. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. She avoided my eyes. The silence stretched. I picked up the check. For a moment, I looked at the repaired paper, then I slid it back across the table toward her. She froze. I met her gaze. You didn't ask. The room became completely still, that was all. Nothing else needed saying. The check remained between us. Vivian looked down at it, then at me, then back at the check. 1,000 words seemed trapped behind her eyes. None of them escaped. She picked up the paper carefully. Okay, I nodded once. The chair creaked softly beneath me. Vivian left. The apartment door closed behind her. Later, Marcus told me she started crying before she reached the elevator. I was not surprised. Sometimes people break long after the moment that breaks them. The next visitor arrived the following afternoon. Serena entered carrying a folder she never opened. That alone told me she was nervous. She sat across from me. Her hands remained folded. Then she began. I owe you an apology. Not a partial one. Not a qualified one. I judged situations without asking questions. I accepted help without investigating where it came from. I assumed things about you because those assumptions were easier than being curious. I benefited from decisions you made while convincing myself your involvement was minimal. I was wrong. She stopped. The room waited. I nodded once. The refrigerator hummed quietly in the kitchen. Serena looked at me. Apparently she expected more. I had nothing to add. The silence remained. Eventually, she stood. Thank you for listening. I nodded again. The apartment seemed larger after she left. Maya arrived that evening. The second she sat down, words started pouring out. I know how this looks. Actually, that's not true. I know how it is. But I've changed. I've been trying to change. The person I was 2 years ago isn't the person sitting here now. I made assumptions. I believed things would always work out because they always had. I never stopped to ask why. Then everything happened so fast and... She continued. One apology became another. One explanation became two more. Stories appeared. Justifications followed. Regret hid inside every sentence. I listened, not because I needed answers, because she clearly needed to say them. Eventually, the words ran out. The room finally became quiet. Maya looked.